Hi, my name is Dylan.
And my name is Jack, and today we'll be discussing how to create a database for a bookstore. In this database, we will have a table for books, a table for orders, and a table for customers. We'll show you how to create these tables and insert data into them, as well as discuss the relationships between them. I'm going to pass it over to Dylan now to get started with the code.
Great, thanks, Jack. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is actually click on File, New Query tab, and that'll open up a new editor window just like the one I have here. I'm not going to click on it, but that's how you open up the window itself. The next thing I want to talk about is how to actually run your code. There are two options. I actually personally like this option, which is execute the statement under the keyboard cursor. That means anything before the semicolon will be executed when I click on this button. So the first thing when you actually want to write the code is to use the create keyword. And what are we creating? We're creating a schema. Schema is essentially the database. So create schema bookstore. When I run this code, we're going to have our database created. The next thing that you want to do is actually use the database that you've created. So we're going to use the use keyword, and we're going to use the bookstore. From there, you can actually start to create tables and insert data into your database. I'll pass it off to Jack again, and he'll talk a bit more about how to actually start creating tables.
Awesome. So, as we discussed, we're going to create a table and we're going to call it books. So, we're going to reuse that create keyword. We're going to call it, it's going to be a table. So, we had table, and we're going to call it books. So, we had books. Super simple. And next, we're going to have what is going to actually be in the table. So, we're going to have a book ID, and that's going to be auto increment. So, we don't want any numbers overlapping. So, it's going to automatically increment itself, and that's going to be our primary key or primary reference point. We need our book table to have titles for each book, and it's going to be not null because every book should have a title. Author, sometimes we don't know the author, so we don't need that not null. Price, we'll definitely need, so we'll keep that not null there. Stock quantity, we'll definitely need to know the stock, so we'll keep that as not null. Next, we're going to have release date, and that's going to be a bit of a special one. Date is a way to store dates in SQL, and you can order them chronologically, and we'll show you how to do that later on. Next, we're going to create a table for customers. That's going to have our customer ID, first name, last name, email, and postal code. Again, auto increment on the customer ID because we don't want any overlapping numbers. Finally, our last table is going to be create table orders. For order ID, that's going to be auto increment again. Order quantity and order date will just be standard. The new ones here are going to be book ID and customer ID. So these are going to be foreign keys. So they're actually going to be references to other data in other tables. So the book ID in this table is going to be a reference to the book ID in the books table, and then the customer ID in this table is actually going to be a reference to the customer ID in the customers table. And now I'm going to pass it off to Dylan to show you how to actually insert data into these tables.
Okay, thanks again, Jack. So when you want to actually start inserting data into your database, the first thing you want to type is insert into. Insert into essentially means what are we inserting into, and we're inserting into our books table. So everything that's after that in the brackets will be an attribute of the books table. So we're going to have a title, we're going to have an author, we're going to have a price, we're going to have stock quantity, and release date. Notice that we don't actually include book ID because of the auto increment keyword that Jack talked about before. So we don't actually have to initialize that. It essentially just does it itself. And it will automatically increment that primary key. So this will be 1, 2, 5. So from there, you want to use the values keyword and then sync up the data to the attributes that you declared in this bracket, in the set of brackets above. So we're going to have the title, we're going to have the author, price, etc., etc. And if you run this, now we have our data inserted into our books table. The next table that we're going to look at is our customers table. It's the exact same thing. We have first name, last name, email, postal code. We have first name, last name, email, postal code. We run that, and now we have everything inserted into our customers table. The last table I want to talk about is the orders table, and this is a bit different. We have order quantity, order date, and again, we have our book ID and customer ID, just like Jack talked about before. The book ID here references the fifth entry into the books table because of that auto increment that we talked about before. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means that item number 4 is ironically the fifth entry into the books table. The customer ID here is also related to the customers table. So because of the auto increment, we have Jack Kennedy as the second entry into our customers table. So from that, we can deduce that Jack Kennedy ordered 3 copies of item number 4 on January 13th, 2024. So I'm just going to run that and we'll have everything inserted into our orders table. Now I'm going to pass it back to Jack and he'll talk to you a bit more about select statement.
Awesome. So now that we've seen how to insert data, we need to actually see the data. So we're going to select the data, and star is going to be our wildcard. So that just means everything from the books table. So when Dylan runs it, it's going to actually show us all the data that's currently in the books table. And as you can see there, there's the auto increment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in there, and it's in the order that we actually entered it into the data. So Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is first, and then item number 4 is last. So let's take a look at the customers table next. Just going to run that customers code. And now we see it as well. Same thing. So first is going to be Dylan and last is going to be DJ. Same order we submitted in. Everything's all there. Finally, we're just going to take a look at the orders table. And again, we just see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the order quantity, order date, book ID, customer ID. All the information is there, and it's very easy to read, all perfectly labeled. Finally, we're just going to take a look at how to sort our data. So we're going to we want to specify that we want to select the title, author, and release date from the books table, but we want to order it, and we're going to order by the release date. So earlier we talked about date being able to be sorted, and we want to do it in descending order. So the first one is going to be the most recent. And here we see item number 4 came out in 2010, and finally The Hobbit, which came out in 1937, is going to be last. Then I'm going to just pass it over to Dylan to show you how to use where statements.
Okay, so the next statement that we're going to look at is select star from customers where postal code like %Z%. So the where actually just is saying what do we want to compare? What do we want to compare? So we want to compare postal code. Then we're going to say like. So that means that anything that's in these brackets or in these quotes is going to be compared. And the %Z% essentially just means that anything before the Z we don't care about, anything after the Z we don't care about. So that should get all postal codes with the Z. And as you can see, we have all postal codes that start with the Z. The Z could be in the middle, the Z could be at the end. It doesn't really matter. These are essentially wildcards, and that's what that means. Now I'm going to pass it back to Jack. You can talk about this next query here.
Awesome. So next we have select sum stock quantity. So sum is basically we find the sum of all the items in stock quantity, where we want it to name it as books and inventory, and we're going to get the data from the books table. So when Dylan runs it, it's going to show us a sum of all of the books we have in inventory. So title there, books and inventory, we have a total of 90. I'm just going to pass it back to Dylan, take a look at some more advanced statements.
Great, thanks, Jack. So the last statement we're going to look at today is this select statement. Essentially, what it does is it calculates the average price of all the books in our books table, as you can see. So we're selecting from books and we're selecting the average price. That's what this function does. The other thing that I wanted to show you is that you can actually use functions in tandem. So you can round that value off to 2 decimal places. As essentially with price, we don't want to actually get too many floating point values. We just want to have 2 because it's a price. So when I run this, as you can see, we have an average price of $22.59 for all of our books. And that's essentially how that last statement works. So I guess that is the end of our tutorial. Thank you for everything, and thank you for watching, and we'll hopefully have more to come in the future.
Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.
Bye.